And as with everybody who's here this morning, we have, they'll be with us for the rest of the conference. We do have a speaker later who's with us for lunch. So please feel free to talk to them and ask questions throughout the weekend. Now we get the fun stuff. Yes, and I consider this presentation to be interactive. So if anybody has a question on anything that I mention, you can interrupt me at that time and I'm happy to answer it. Also, a copy of this is available in your conference app under information. I understand that not everybody knows there's an information tab on there. There's a lot of great info in that section, so check that out. Okay. The first thing we're going to talk about is our website redesign. The new website is live. If you go to ILN.com, if you go on your phones right now, it's also mobile friendly. That was one of our #1 things that we wanted to do. So as you can see here, some of you have seen this before, but we had some goals setting out when we went through this process. We wanted to create a compelling look and feel. The old website was very busy. I'm sure all of you remember that. So we wanted something that was more streamlined. This is the homepage, and that was progressive and modern, just like we are. We also wanted to create a memorable user experience by focusing around key areas of importance to our audiences and implement some intuitive navigation patterns. So as you'll see when you use the website, I was going to jump into it, but it's difficult to do that with this pointer. So I'll let you explore it on your own. And if you notice anything, please let me know. But if you have any questions, you can also let me know. And then the third was that we wanted to save on efficiency by integrating the website and database. I don't know how many people ever noticed this, but up until now, we've had 2 websites stuck together. So now we just have one, and it has our database in it. Most importantly, I know for all of you is the ability to find a firm. And so that's really easy on the site. It's really easy on the mobile devices. You can see this find a firm button right here. There's also at the top on the menu, it says find a firm. You're able to search by country. There is also still a country list. That was a request that we had. So if you're familiar with the old website and that list of countries with the firms attached to them, you can still access that. But you can also search by a firm. You can search by the member, and you can search by specialty. And there's still a few bugs with that, but ideally, and that is mostly working, if you search by country and specialty, it'll bring up the firm name. One of the discussions that we had yesterday during the board meeting when we were talking about this is that when you do search by, say, country and specialty, it brings up a list of firms and not a list of lawyers. And people were asking why that is. And the reason is that when you make a referral, we would like you to go through the main ambassadors at that firm. In many cases, everyone at the firm is very familiar with the ILN. They've made referrals, they've received referrals. But in some cases, we have big firms who maybe not everyone is as familiar. And so that's the purpose of the ambassadors, is to bring the ILN message back to the firm, but to also monitor those referrals. So that is live as of today. We reclaimed our ILN.com address, which we had previously, but that was the second website we had. So if you go to ILN.com, either on your phones, on your tablets, or on your desktops, you will be able to see this website and use it. We've also made it easier for members who are interested in joining to fill out a form and get some information on joining. Our specialty groups remain on there. And we do have some news on there as well. But the big change that we've made there is we're no longer going to be putting member firm news and information on there. We're only putting collaborative information on there. And there's 2 reasons for that. First, I think we can all agree that the previous website was a bit too cluttered. So that's one of the reasons that we've really reduced the amount of content that we have on the site. And the second reason is it was actually quite a lot of administrative work on the back end to make sure that we were either sourcing the material or editing the RSS feeds that came in directly to the website. So this just streamlines that process. It highlights the collaborative nature of the network because those are the pieces that we will still be promoting. And we also will still have a Twitter feed that's further down on the main page where we'll share information from member firms directly. So your news will still be promoted through the website, just in a different way than some of you are used to. Any questions on the website? Okay, great. And just a note on the process, we did some research with our member firms and asked them for what they wanted to get out of it. And then we worked with a committee to put together the website. And then we had several of our marketing directors volunteer to do a final check, since we'd been looking at it for 18 months, so that we were confident that this was a site that really reflected what our membership wants and needs. Sure. Right. And in particular, your profile pages. So each firm has a profile page similar to the way that it worked before. There's some information about the firm, your administrative, your ambassadors are on there, and then branch office information. The partners that you would like included on the page are also on there. So if you could take a look and let me know if there's anything that needs to be changed for your firms, I can do that very quickly. So just take a look at those. And some firms have already done that. But if you haven't yet, that would be, now is a good time to do that. Correct. Yes. Especially because we are going to be heavily promoting the new site next week publicly. So I think it'll draw some attention. People will be looking at it, and you want to make sure that the information that you have up there is as up to date as possible. Okay, recruitment. So the two pillars of discussion for the ILN will always be sort of referrals and recruitment. And on recruitment, we're going to look at our recent successes, our priorities for 2023, and then how you as members can help. So on this list, you'll see these are the new firms that have joined us since January of 2022. We've welcomed 8 new firms in a number of jurisdictions that include Belgium, Uganda, Kenya, the US, Hong Kong, Germany, Slovenia, and Cameroon. So all of these firms have joined us. I don't know if any of them, none of them are here this weekend, but we hope to see almost all of them in Prague in October. One of the things that I like to mention, and I go through this process with all of our new firms, is to think about the top 3 jurisdictions where they expect to send work and the top 3 that they expect to receive it from. And that's something that every member can think about as well, whether you're a new firm or you've been here for 20 years. Are there jurisdictions where you could be forming a more strategic relationship with the existing ILN member firms? And I'm happy to assist in that process. If you have not yet introduced yourselves to those markets, I'm happy to do that. So that's just something to consider as we're going through this, just from a referral perspective, especially if there's any new members on the list. When we do announce a new member, we put out a press release, we send information to the membership. It's a great opportunity for you to promote the network to your social media followers, to the members of your firm, especially as ambassadors, because for 2 reasons. One, you can welcome the new firm. It's a good time to reach out to them and let them know we're glad to have them here. But also it showcases the breadth of expertise within the network that your firm has access to by being a member. So sometimes it can feel like, okay, well, why would I share this? But it shows anybody who's following you, the members within your firm, that you have this global network that you have access to, especially in these jurisdictions that we may not have had previously. So that's always a great opportunity. And of course, we're always looking to add firms as well. We love to broaden the referral basket. What we've done in the last couple of years is we have a recruitment committee. Our committee puts together a survey and we circulate that to the membership so that we have an understanding of where the top priorities are within the network for bringing in new firms. As you can see here, this is our alphabetical list. It's not necessarily a list by importance. And of course, Africa and the Middle East are big places. So we're looking to fill in some key countries like South Africa, Nigeria, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. When it comes to considering what the ideal member looks like, it really is going to be just like your firm. So, international in outlook, very good domestic reputation, relationships, outgoing international business. So we're looking for firms that are going to be engaged, like everyone in this room is. And so when you're thinking about who might be suitable, those are the types of qualities that we're looking for. And I mean, why do I mention asking our member firms to help? I think we all know that word of mouth is a fantastic way to get new business. It's the same with the ILN. If I cold call a firm and say, I'm here with this international network, most of the time they don't care. But if you, as a legal colleague, can say to them, we've worked together, I think this network would be really beneficial for you, that opens the door for the ILN. And then we can invite them to join us as a guest. We can invite them to participate in some of our online community opportunities if that's what's happening first. And that's just a great way for us to connect with potential member firms. So my suggestion is that you start with one. We've got that list of several jurisdictions. So pick one that we have on the list and then go through these following steps. First, review your own contacts. You may not realize that you are connected to somebody in the jurisdiction that we're looking for, and that can be hugely helpful. Same thing with asking your colleagues. So you may not have the relationships, but other people in your firm will have the relationships. And same with your clients. They may already be working with a firm in the jurisdiction that we're looking to bring new members in. And so that's another opportunity there. And the slightly weird one that everyone always rolls their eyes at is using LinkedIn. But if you go to your contacts feed, you can do a search by jurisdiction. And you may not even realize that you're connected to people in these cities because maybe law school colleagues have moved, people that used to work at your firm have moved. And so you may have an opportunity just looking through LinkedIn where you're connected in a jurisdiction that we're looking for a member firm. I have an extensive database of law firms that we've either reached out to or just members have worked with in the past. So if you do find somebody in a jurisdiction and you think this firm looks great for the ILN, let me know and we can talk about it. Some of them are hooked up with other networks. Some of them might have competing offices with our firms. So all of those things are worth discussing before you reach out to that firm. So any questions on that? And the reason we talk about recruitment is really because growing the referral basket is great for everybody. The more firms we have in the network, the more opportunities there are for business. If you do ever have a referral in a jurisdiction, you can't find them in the list on our website, you can also come to me. As I said, I have that extensive list of firms. And there's only been one time I haven't been able to find an obscure jurisdiction. So I've always got somebody in my back pocket. Okay. Is anybody feeling warm? Is it warm in here? Okay. Can we turn the air down? Thank you. Okay. So now let's talk about referrals. So first we'll talk about what last year looked like. We had a total of 359 referrals, and that's the highest number we've seen in 5 years, which is great. We're post-pandemic. Yeah. That's including pre-pandemic. So we've gone up 3% since 2017. So it's an 11% increase over last year. So this is really great. We do say that referrals are generally underreported. At the moment, the best way to report referrals, and I'll talk about some best practices in a moment, but the best way to report them is to copy me on that initial request to the other member firm. I then keep a track of that. I'll input it in the draft referral report that goes out twice a year. And you can look back at it and say, yes, that happened, or no, it didn't, and we can remove it. Some firms do let us know when we send out the survey every 6 months for the benefit of the new members. We send out a biannual referral survey in July for the preceding 6 months and in January for the same. And that's a great time to do it as well, but it can be also difficult to track down. You know, if you did a referral in January and you're sending me the email in July, sometimes it's hard to remember what happened. And I know it's easier to track incoming referrals than it is to track outgoing referrals. So we take both. If all you've got is incoming, send them to me and we'll put those in the report. But outgoing referrals is also a great thing to track. So we've often said that interregional referrals are the most important in the network. And what I mean by interregional is within your same region. So Europeans referring to Europeans, North Americans referring to North Americans, South Americans, and so on. So in the past, this number was much larger in terms of interregional referrals. And we'll look at each of the statistics in a minute, but really what's making up the most of this number right now is Europe. Other regions are referring out much more often, and that's new for us. It used to be the case where the majority of everyone's referrals was in their region. So that reinforces the importance of attending a global meeting like this one, and also taking a look at where you are referring work out to and considering attending the regional conferences for that region. And that's because that's where you're forming your relationships. And, you know, as Boss said, we've got our cheesy tagline where lawyers become friends. But for us, the friendships are really about business. When you know, like, and trust someone because you've spent time with them, you're confident in referring work to them. And there are some jurisdictions in our network where unless they've met someone in person, they will never make a referral to them. So that just reinforces the importance of attending the conferences, which all of you know because you're here. But for anybody that's not, you know, being able to attend the conferences, meet people is very important. And often, you know, people will wonder, like, okay, we have 3 hours of business sessions in the mornings, and then you do all this social stuff. But that's really essential because that's where you form the relationships. And we've had so many referrals that happen outside of these conference rooms. So that's another reason why, you know, people may want to just sort of attend the business part, but the social part is just as important a business function as the business sessions are. Okay, so let's look at our interregional referrals. First up, we have North America. We had 68 referrals within the region. So that's within North America to North America. Let's see, there we go. Then we had 100 within Europe, 4 within Latin America, and 10 within Asia Pacific. So this graph this is just the interregional referrals. More importantly, I think, is looking region by region. So when we look at North America, the number of referrals over the last 5 years from North America to Europe has increased significantly. Now it's almost on par with their interregional referrals. So it's about 2/3 right now. And you can see on this slide that the majority of North American referrals are outgoing, obviously. So this, again, may indicate that it's worthwhile for the firms in North America to consider going to those regional conferences, looking at who you're really referring the work to and making sure your relationships with those firms are solid. And again, you may have a great relationship with the ambassador at that firm where you're making a lot of referrals to, but think about introducing some of your other partners to other members of the firm, because there may be opportunities for additional business in other practice areas. So it's not just about, you know, creating those one-to-one relationships. In Europe, we are still seeing the majority being interregional referrals. This is the only group that we're seeing this with. It makes sense, though, when you think about it. The European countries are very close together. And I'm also, sorry, including the UK in this. I still am imagining a pre-Brexit world. Yeah, yes, you're welcome, Marie. So, you know, this just makes sense, these numbers, based on the proximity of the countries to each other. We'll take a look at Latin America. Similarly, they're referring out a lot of work. I will mention that for both Latin America and Asia Pacific, these numbers are statistically small. So a couple of referrals here or there are going to make a big difference in what this graph looks like. So within Latin America, they've referred 4 referrals. And then for Asia Pacific, again, they're doing more external referrals. But they had 10 referrals within the region last year and 9 to North America, and then more than that to Europe, 13. So even though those are small numbers, you're seeing that they really are focused outward. So it's worthwhile getting to know those firms. Asia Pacific is obviously a very important region for us. And I would say the same for nurturing your relationships to the Latin American firms as well. So now let's talk about some referral best practices. Some of you, this is going to be totally new information. Some of you will have heard this a lot, but you find that you've got to hear it at least 7 times for it to really sink in. One more time, send me your referrals, copy me on your initial referrals. You can then remove me once you start to talk about confidential information. Not everyone does that. So make sure that you move me to BCC. Not that I, do anything with that information, but just so that you're aware that that does happen. We are going to continue to circulate those 2 referral surveys every year because we find that that's useful information to gather if we're not gathering it in other ways. As part of that, one of the things we're going to do this year, historically, we have always asked for financial information as part of the referrals. Again, that's something that can be difficult to remember 6 months later, but it would be helpful if when we send out the draft report, you check and give us an estimate of the referrals that have happened so that we can put together some real return on investment information for the member firms. And that's going to be something that we start with this next report in July. One of the reasons I will say to copy me, well, there's 2 reasons. One is for tracking, but more importantly is for ensuring that the referrals are getting through. There are so many emails that are going missing these days. We had an incident with a couple of our firms in the last period where they thought the firm wasn't being responsive and they just never received the email. So if that happens, but you've copied me and you don't hear anything from me either, you know that that email has not gone through. So it's just another quality assurance procedure that we recommend so that we're making sure everyone's getting the referrals, having the opportunity to participate in them and respond in a timely manner. And we do ask that everybody responds within 24 hours. Obviously, we're not assuming the referral is going to be completed in that time, but just to say, I've gotten your email, I'm checking into it, let's discuss. And that's one of the reasons that we have at least 2 ambassadors at every firm, so that if you're out of the office and you're not able to get your emails, someone else is there as backup to make sure that everything is being covered as we need it to be. So, please. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so for anybody that didn't hear that, Lewis suggested copying all the ambassadors to 4 at each firm when you're making that initial request, just so you know that someone is going to be checking that and getting back to you. Because not everybody puts up out of offices either. So I know a lot of our members do, but not everyone does. And you'll find out a week later that they were somewhere where they didn't have access to internet. So that can be really helpful to make sure that that happens. Sure. Yes. Right, right. And that is something that we do regularly, is to make sure that we believe that we have the right ambassadors in place. But it's something that obviously you at your firms know best, who is the right person, who is going to be the most engaged, who has that international outlook. So that's something that we do ask the firms to consider. Jason. Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. And I do put them back in and sort of backdate them. So that helps when we're, if we go back to looking at data later on, that we know that that's a more updated set of information. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of times where people are creating relationships with each other and the ambassador never knows about it because, they've just done the referrals without talking to the ambassadors. So that's why copying the ambassadors is really helpful and important, or at least copying me, because I know, who everybody is. So now let's talk about how do you leverage the ILN in terms of your referrals? So obviously we've talked a lot about the one-to-one referrals and that's triggered when, your client has a need in another jurisdiction and you reach out to that ILN member firm and either hand the client over or you manage the referral for them. That's what we would consider a one-to-one referral. But there's lots of other ways you can leverage the ILN, which will bring in work for your firms. Because we are creating all of these great relationships here at these conferences and in between the conferences, you get to know each other and your capabilities. So you can pitch for matters together. Firms have done that. They've put together teams of lawyers between the firms, among the firms. We've had some firms do it with 3 firms and pitch for new matters. It's a really great way to represent yourself as part of the network and leverage the expertise that you have along with other colleagues in the room. Multi-jurisdictional referrals, Boss just talked about that and how that works. It can be managed in a couple of different ways. If you don't know all the firms and you'd like me to get involved and help in that process, I'm more than happy to. Or similar to what Boss did, he managed that to make sure all of the firms were working together and doing things in different jurisdictions. We've done both and both work really well. It just depends on the individual matter and what's called for. Webinars. I'm not talking about our webinars. Our member firms these days, post-COVID, everybody I think is putting on a lot of virtual opportunities. I see fairly often firms will be doing something with another jurisdiction, but not inviting the ILN member in that jurisdiction to participate in the session. And that's another great way to showcase to your clients, to the people who are attending the webinar, that you're part of this broad network that gives you access to other jurisdictions. So that's just something to consider when you're putting together content for your firm. With conferences, conferences and traveling really go together. When you're going to another conference, a lot of our members already do this, but I like to remind everybody, if you have access to the attendee list, you can send it to me and I'll take a look and see which other members of ILN will be there. But if not, you can also just reach out to me and say, I'm going to be in this city. Do we have a member there? Can you introduce me to them? Because that's another way to create those relationships, not only with the ILN ambassadors, but also to meet other members of the firms. And you can do this when you're traveling for personal reasons as well. I mean, it feels like a lot of extra work, but it's just a couple of additional hours that will really benefit you in terms of creating and leveraging those relationships. Mentioning the ILN and client pitches, a lot of our firms do that too. That has a benefit of sometimes helping a firm to achieve work that they might not have received otherwise because their clients realize that they're part of this large organization. And whether or not they utilize that is irrelevant as long as it helps your firm bring in the work. Same thing in client meetings, not just mentioning the ILN, but considering who you have as existing clients that may benefit from meeting another ILN member that you're close to. We all know a referral is the biggest risk you can take as a lawyer in terms of sending your client to someone that you know, but it's not you doing the work. So all of these things help your clients get to know the reach that you have with the network, the ability for your firm to make those referrals, and then to meet the other ILN members who are there. I know in a lot of instances, clients have their own relationships and they've chosen a firm in that jurisdiction and they're not willing to switch. But in the case where there is maybe that ability to make an introduction, it's a good opportunity to do that. And again, LinkedIn is a great way to use that feature. If you look at where your clients might have connections, where they're doing business and where you have an ILN friend, you can make that introduction. So that's a great way to deepen your relationships. Any questions on referrals, how you make a referral? Yeah.
So the client pitches, I've seen some other networks, and maybe this all but there's like a template to insert in a presentation that shows the coverage of the network, which, it always looks great. Does ILN have something like that
Yes.
needs to be inserted into, the end of a PowerPoint that you do for a webinar or something?
Yes, we do. Yep. And I've got that regularly updated. So if anytime you need it, just let me know and I will send it to you. And that's true for any materials that you might need we can customize them for your firm. We can customize them by jurisdiction if you just want to look at a certain region. All of that is doable. And the other thing is, if you're trying to get more of your partners involved and engaged in the ILN, I'm happy to do a webinar for the firm, sit in on a partner meeting and talk about the ILN, come and visit the firm. So all of those are options that you have when trying to engage more of your lawyers in the network. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So now we'll talk about some ILN initiatives that we've got going on. Some of you may be familiar with what we call ILN Light, and that is for our younger lawyers. It's for younger partners, senior associates. We do an in-person session that's attached to a conference. So we're going to be doing that in Prague. The idea is that the young lawyers would come, they attend a lunch on Thursday with the board of directors, then they have their own afternoon networking session that allows them to create some peer-to-peer relationships. Then they get to join the rest of the conference for the welcome reception and dinner, Friday morning's business session, and then Friday lunch, and then we send them on their way. There's a full information flyer, which I will send out after the conference, but it is also available in your conference app. This just gives you all of the information about the program that we expect to have, who it's for, and the costs. And the costs are very reasonable. It's 750 euros, and that includes a hotel room for one night, all of those conference fees, and all of the meals that are included. The only thing that we require is that the firm is also sending a full delegate. And delegates are able to upgrade to the full conference if they wanted to attend both, but that's not required. So the first time we launched this was in Paris in 2019, and obviously we had hoped to continue doing it in other jurisdictions, but COVID had other plans for us. But it was extremely successful. We had, I think, about 30 young lawyers there. They really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. So what we've done in the meantime is we've done some engagement with them virtually. We put a pause on that because people were getting a little bit tired of Zoom, but we're going to restart that this year so that anyone who is attending the fall conference or wants to be more engaged in ILN Light will have the opportunity to do so online before they meet in person. So consider the young lawyers within your firm who are up and coming, who would be a good candidate for this, are looking to build their careers, and this would be a really great program for them. So any questions about ILN Light?
So we would love them for some delegates to the firms, but focus ILN Life program, and just the right folks. Say they were involved, they appreciate it, they decided to almost some kid of CCP within the international orders. And so it works well to fight for the ILN with some new blood. And at the same time, the funds and some people offer to
And for us, succession in the next generation is really important. So we want to make sure that the ILN continues to be a great organization for many years to come. And this is one of the programs that we have for doing that. We also have a mentorship program. It's currently in its 6th year of operation, where we pair young lawyers with more senior lawyers. We have also on occasion paired some young managing partners with more senior lawyers in the network as well. So they wouldn't ordinarily be candidates for a mentorship program, but they're looking for how they really build their firm, how they manage their firm. And so that's a really great opportunity for anybody that's looking for that type of assistance as well. And then we also have our secondment program and that's much sort of less formally defined, only in that we like the firms to work that out in between themselves. But we have a list of firms that have said they're interested in sending a young lawyer to another jurisdiction. And then we have a list of firms that have said they're willing to accept a lawyer in their jurisdiction. So we're working on placing somebody right now It's been extremely successful in the past. Again, as Paula said, that can be a benefit to your young lawyers who you're looking to, get more engaged with the firm and stay on long term. And we've had anything from a few weeks to a few months. The firm that is sending the lawyer is the one taking on all of the expenses, but the firm that is training them obviously will create work for them and work with you on helping getting them housed and all of that type of thing. So, okay, did somebody have a question? No? Okay. Next up are specialty groups. Our long-suffering specialty groups. We have 15 groups. This list does not include our marketing group, which is the 15th, but these are the ones that are most relevant to all of you. What we've done following our last couple of conferences is to have a virtual meeting for the majority of these groups. What we found is that people who are attending the conferences tend to be mostly corporate lawyers or litigators, with a few exceptions. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But because we want to help foster these relationships, get the network deeper in within each of your firms, we have these specialty groups, which allows you to form relationships around these particular practice and specialty areas. The reason we've chosen these particular groups is that looking across the network, we have a substantial number who practice within each of these areas. And so that is enough for us to say, okay, let's put you all together. So now we're doing these quarterly virtual events. The next one will be in late June. And so I'll send out more information about that after the conference. The idea is that the chair of the group creates the agenda, but it's supposed to be as interactive as possible. So for those of you that are corporate and litigation lawyers, you'll get your specialty group breakouts tomorrow. But for everybody else, and even for those of you that are not practicing in these areas, please do share this with your colleagues. We're really trying to grow all of these groups and get people involved and engaged. And it's only by having people attend that we can really do that. When you want to have someone sign up for a specialty group, all you have to do is let me know. Just drop me an email with their name and email address, and I will include them in all future mailings for that group. So, but you're also welcome when we send out the invitation to just circulate that among your colleagues. And that's another opportunity for young lawyers as well, too, because we don't restrict it just to the senior partners, but anybody in the firm who's a practicing lawyer is welcome to attend and participate in those events. Any questions on specialty groups? Okay. Now we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is content marketing. And I know that lawyers hate talking about content marketing, but I'm just going to give you one slide. We're going to talk about what we do at the ILN. And the reason I love it so much, content marketing, is that it does the word of mouth marketing for you while you're doing billable. That's what's so great about it. So when I talk about content, some people always think, well, that's just blogging, but it's not. It's anything that you put out. It can be client alerts. It's what you send to your clients via email, articles, speaking engagements, podcasts, any of that constitutes content marketing. With regards to our content marketing, we actually have a pretty big reach because we were early adopters. So I know this is maybe a bit hard to see. There is a copy of this in your app. But our LinkedIn page is almost 10,000 followers, which for a group of our size is pretty substantial. We then also have LinkedIn groups. Our main group has 564 lawyers in it. Actually, I shouldn't say lawyers because it includes our members, but it also includes clients. So sometimes we've had people who've been members who've moved in-house. They've stayed in the group. Sometimes we've had clients reach out directly and ask to be in the group, and they're in the group. So it's an opportunity for people to get more engaged in that group and see, post your own content. We have some of our lawyers who are doing that already. Ask questions, share things. I've talked anecdotally to the companies that are part of this group, and they are reading the things that are in there. So it's going to come up in their feed. It'll come up that there's information in there. You've asked a question, and they'll participate. So even if it doesn't look like they're liking something or commenting on it, I do know that they are reading it. Our Facebook group has just over 3,200 followers. And then our Twitter reach, our ILN Twitter reach is a little bit on the small side. That's only 190, but I have almost 5,000 followers, and I pretty much share everything that we're going to put on the ILN feed anyway. So mostly because of the number of followers. The next thing I want to mention is our JD Supra. So JD Supra is our content distribution partner. They work with us to put out anything that is collaborative from the ILN. So our IP Insider blog, all of our guides, our real estate guide, our insolvency guide, our corporate guide, all go out through JD Supra. Our top for over the last, since I think I looked at January to now, we've had over 462,000 reads. And the great thing about JD Supra is that you have access to who is reading that information. As an individual author, if you, like Melissa is the author of the Brazilian corporate chapter, she can go in and look at who's looked at her work, who shared it, what the interaction has been. And in some cases, there are actual people's names, not just the company name in there. And you can follow up on that and say, oh, I noticed you read my work or you shared my work. Is there something that you need? Depending on, your ethical considerations for your jurisdiction. But it's been really great for us. And we have some pretty high profile followers. Those are people who will, say that they want to continue receiving our content. People like Visa, the International Intellectual Property Organization, Best Buy. And then some of our readers over the last year include Insol, Chipotle, Target, St. Jude's, 3M, Sanofi, NASA, Tesla, Credit Suisse, Wells Fargo, GM, JP Morgan Chase, and a ton more. I mean, I know those are big companies. It's not necessarily always your market, but there are also small and medium-sized companies on there as well. So anytime you can participate in one of our guides, or if you're an IP lawyer and you want to participate in our blog, or even if you just want to work together with another member firm and put together an article, a podcast, anything that we can then share on your behalf, we will do that. And this goes out to very targeted audiences. We've similarly started working with The Lawyer over the last 6 months, and they're also publishing ILN content, and that's going out through anything that originates on our website can then be published to them. So we've been working with them and getting in front of some good people. The other thing I wanted to mention about JD Supra is that I was notified this week that Mass.gov, the Massachusetts state government, had shared the real estate chapter that Amy Fracassini had written. So it's sharing is something that leads not only to more leads, but this is, more eyeballs on Amy's content. It's a broader audience. People will get to see it. So those types of things happen too. That happens fairly frequently. Our top 3 articles for this past 18 months, we had 2 labor and employment articles and an IP article. Actually, no, 2 IP articles and a labor and employment article. And one of our IP lawyers was named a top 10 by JD Supra because of their level of content. So that was really great. And if there's ever something that you as a firm are not sure about when it comes to content marketing, it's something that I've spoken on in the past and do a lot of work with. So I can either help you directly or put you in touch with a good solution for that. And then let's talk about our diversity initiative. Diversity is obviously something that's very important these days. And when I say diversity, I mean of all kinds. Anything you can think of, I consider to be diversity. But a lot of people don't know this, but I'm the only person that works for the ILN. I do not have a staff, except I like to joke that my dogs are my, marketing assistants. But they sleep all day, so they're not very helpful. And so although diversity is a real passion project for me, we need the membership to take ownership of it. So if diversity is something that you're also passionate about, please let me know, because we're looking to really drive this within the ILN, both in terms of what we do as a network, but also how we can help our firms with what they're doing as individual law firms. Some of our firms are really excellent at this. Others are just learning how to do it. And so we want to help create some of those resources. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know. And then finally, I'll talk about our 360 member review. What we started doing in 2021 was these 360-degree member reviews. And essentially what it is the opportunity for myself and a member of our executive committee to sit down with one of our member firms, get a sense of their interaction with the ILN. I do some research in advance of the visit so that we see how they fit into the ILN from our perspective. And then we also send out a questionnaire so we can see how the firm thinks that they fit in with the ILN and make sure that those things match. And then we have the in-person visit where we sit down and talk about not only how the firm is doing and how they can be more engaged with the ILN if there's something that we've noticed, but also how the ILN is doing, what we could be doing better to support our membership. We've done 18 of these since we started. And so they've been very successful, great opportunity to sit down with our firms in a way that we don't get to do at the conferences. All of us are hitting multiple people at different times. So this is a really concentrated opportunity to chat with the member firms that we've chosen. So we're going to be scheduling more of those. I've already reached out to some of you in the room about scheduling that. It's been a really great process for us. Does anybody have any questions about that? Sure. So generally the way that we select the firms is primarily where one of us is traveling. So if somebody is going to be in a city and we have the opportunity to go and visit the member firm there, then we will. So conferences are a great opportunity for that, but Pavel also does a lot of travel. So she's taken on a lot of the lead on our member reviews. But sometimes we also say, this firm could really benefit from a sit down with the ILN. And so I will contact that firm and say, I'm going to come to your city. We did that last year with some firms in November, and it was really, really rewarding. And it just, it helps me to know what everyone's office looks like and, meet some more of your partners. And so again, it's a really great opportunity. So if it is something that your firm would like to do and you don't want to wait for us to ask you, you can of course ask me and we'll figure out how to put that together. But otherwise we're just continuing to make our way through all of the member firms over the next few years.
So we were not sure if they were still willing to engage with the network or not. Finally, it showed up that they were, but they somehow didn't communicate it to us. So this is really very helpful to keep the network, to make sure that all the members within the network are really willing to be active members. Because to be just on the list of member firms doesn't really help. You really need to be active to get something out of it. There were firms that were complaining that they weren't receiving enough referrals for them, but they weren't showing up at the conferences. They were not really active in any of the specialty groups, for example. So then, no surprise that they nobody knew about them and nobody would really contact them with any support.
Right.
So this is really a method. It's not like, the marks.
Right. We're not kicking anyone out.
About the members that they are happy or unhappy with certain things that tell us what and also it's a good way for us to understand because someone can be member for 15 years and as part of that or transition that happened but probably didn't go well, whatever. And so that this is really a great way how to keep the membership up and running.
Absolutely. Yeah, just pay some extra attention. And I think one of the nice things has been that there may not be, because we in the executive committee and myself and the board, we talk about the ILN all the time. I mean, Pavlo mentioned the executive committee has monthly meetings, so it's on our minds a lot. I don't always realize what is new information to somebody or something that I think I've said 1,000 times, but somebody else hasn't heard before. So this gives us the opportunity for people to say, oh, that's brand new information to me. And it also reminds me that it's something that I then need to be saying to everyone. If it's something that we think a firm should have heard before, and we just think we've said it so many times. So that's why, a lot of what I said this morning has come out of those opportunities. And as Pablo said too, with the referrals, firms will say, oh, I'm not getting any referrals. But if we look back at the last 5 years, which is what we do, we can say, well, this is how many you've sent out. This is how many you've received. And when you look at it over time, sometimes that strikes you as being, much more significant than you realized. So it's really just a way to take the pulse of individual members and also get some reflection back on the network as well. So, and a note on that as well, I said we're not kicking anyone out. We have kicked firms out in the past. Sometimes people think that if a firm is a member, it's a lifetime appointment, but we need firms that are committed, engaged, respond to referrals, will be participatory in the organization. Obviously, that doesn't refer to anyone in this room. I know that you are all, you're here. So that's the important thing. But if there are firms that you have either had an issue with, and sometimes obviously, miscommunications happen. If somebody has an issue with a firm, we're not chucking them out. But, you can come to me, you can come to a member of the executive committee and say, I have a concern about this other firm. This referral didn't go well. This person didn't get back to me. We didn't like the fee structure, any of those things. And we're happy to listen as an organization and respond to that as well. So this isn't something where, you have to wait for the referral report and say, well, that referral didn't go well because of XYZ reason. You can come to us at any time and say, I'd like to give you some confidential feedback on this firm that we've been working with. Or even if you say we haven't been working with this firm for these reasons, they're too small, they don't have the diverse practice areas we need. All of those things are things that we, as an executive committee and board, take very seriously and need to hear as feedback. And that's why, in some cases we've removed firms. In other cases, we'll bring in another firm that can sort of help complement the practice areas that exist. So, but just to give you that feedback that we are an open door, we're looking for people to get back to us on things. If you ever have a concern, please feel free to tell us immediately. And if you don't want to tell me, as I said, you can tell any member of the board or executive committee is very open to that. So before I let you go for coffee, I just want to mention that if anyone is going out at night and you want to continue the ILN party, it's not recommended to do that right around here at the hotel. The concierge is more than happy to help arrange taxis for you, or Uber is a good option, although you want to go to an Uber Black is what I understand. Anybody taking a regular Uber is basically getting into someone's backseat. So those are our suggestions. If you have any questions, just let us know. And then tomorrow night following the gala dinner, we will have some coaches going to Ipanema afterwards, if that's something you're interested in. So just let us know tomorrow night how you're feeling, and we can make that happen. And the hotel bar is open until 11, but they have said they will stay open a little bit later if there's ILN guests there. Right. So just bear that in mind. Now your coffee break is actually down the hall in the blue room. So you can head there, and please come back at 11 because we have another speaker. Thank you very much.